All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today, I am Ming549, and I am joined by one of the managers from the congregation of the Classiest, Expulso. Expulso, why don't you just kind of give yourself a little bit of an introduction?
Hello. Yeah, I'm happy to. And I'll also be reading off a little blurb from the other two guys who are unable to join us on this fine evening, but with whom I've been working very hard to prepare for the draft and in the tour itself. So I'm Expulso. I started playing in like 2013, 2014, and I was like a super annoying noob because I was actually 14 years old. And then I stopped in like 2016. At the time, I played like Little Cup and rarely used to lower tiers, but I also followed SPL a bit. I remember some old guy, I forget, TV Rocka, he signed up for SPL after not playing since like 2017, and then he deleted. But when I went to scout him, I saw I had liked his SPL post, like way back in 2015 when he actually made it. So I was following the tour way back then. Took a big break from like 2016 until COVID stuff in 2019. And then I did a lot of lower tier stuff again and rarely used, and have eventually branched out to OU, where I got in through like Smogon Tour and World Cup around 2020. Actually, like 2021. And then eventually I got to manage in SCL and SPL. And I definitely prefer managing because I'm not that good as a player, especially in the official team tours. I've kind of had my ass kicked a bit, but managing's been it's been going well lately. So looking forward to taking it up this tour. I will read the little blurbs from my buddies here. So, Starry Blanket of Midwest World Cup fame got started in competitive Mons via Pokemon Showdown, and then was an OU forum contributor for a while before getting drafted in SPL 11 5 years ago, and captaining Midwest's World Cup team, which finally won a championship this year. And Donut started getting into competitive Pokemon when Gen 4 came out, with like Wi-Fi, and I also loved Pokemon Diamond. That was my favorite game ever. He started following SPL back in SPL 4, and then got in the scene earlier than us, doing World Cup in like 2015, getting drafted that SPL, and then jumping up to managing around 2020. And he's been a bit of a staple there. So that's our different backgrounds. Thanks for letting me yap a bit through all that, but I think we bring a decent amount of different experiences to the table, and it's been fun working with the other guys.
As far as the congregation of the Classiest, is there any sort of team identity that y'all are kind of looking to establish early on and as the season continues?
Yeah, our team identity. I mean, I showed the questions to the chat, and Starry's answer was team identity Midwest, comma gay. We got a we got a number of the quote unquote the gays who have been getting along well and making our chat like super funny. I mean, people. I want people to think of us as like a team that enjoys having fun. There's been so many like I'm laughing my ass off in the team chat all the time, and we were able to bring like a group of pre-existing friends together, get that synergy, kind of like how I drafted a bunch of Team India, which surprised people, and SCL. I give us some baked in synergy, but I want people to think of us as a group that like incorporates people of all sorts of different backgrounds. Like I know Behe and Starry like talk shit to each other during various World Cups and Smogon Tour experiences, and they were able to quickly settle that, just like I did with some people during like my first SCL as a player. That sort of stuff is what makes essential to every team. Just want people to think of us as we're having fun, we're coming together. Like you can get on board, you can like if you hate, like we don't really want to give you anything to hate on, but we're a good team. We love each other, we love the game, and we're gonna go win.
We'd love to hear it, and that's a great mentality to have kind of coming into the season. And also, you mentioned the draft. So, speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about the kind of drafting choices you had for the Classiest. So, starting off, let's just talk about who you think is the biggest steal that you got from the draft. And there are, you know, a plethora of names to choose from. I know that y'all had a quite solid list of lower priced players. So, yeah, I mean, who do you think would be the biggest steal of the draft, in your opinion?
A really funny answer is 30K McMegan because lately
Yeah.
there's been a trend of the top players being higher and higher in drafts. Like I think Bea was like 38K at some point. ABR was like 40K. And during SCL, I was panicking at the start of the auction because it seemed like anyone was going for like 26, 27K. You had tons of players crossing that threshold. And here, I think maybe only 3 were over 27K. I'm going to fact check myself. Well, 4. But there was less players being super expensive, and we were prepared to go up to maybe like 34 on McMegan. Being without a retain gave us a lot of extra space to get our number 1 player. But the actual answer for steals, I think Sino confirmed being 3K really stands out. We budgeted probably 8K for him. And I was surprised nobody upbid, given he's had some really strong, consistent results, and then also the upside of like a 10-1 SCL season. But near the end of the auction, we went up to 18K on Ruffles Pro, a new talented Oras player, and then the Tigers outbid us for him. We wondered whether we'd be able to get another like high-level Oras player and Damien the Genius, who we were looking at for SS. We thought we might have to throw like a random 3K pilot in one of those tiers, but we were able to get both. And I think Damien missing out a little more as a steal, given PJ was also 10 last year. But like I think being able to get both of those guys at that point in the auction, we had the lowest max bid of any of the teams, was a big bargain for us too.
All right, fabulous. And speaking of kind of the different pools, you mentioned Oras. In your opinion, what were some of the more challenging or the most challenging pool to plan for as far as personnel this year?
I think RBY and SS were kind of up there, where in my eyes there are a low number of top level talents. Like I think an RBY Serpy and Gafar like a random are the standouts who were priced in accordance with that. They're both over 20K. And then SS, let me check out that pool real fast to be reminded. TDNT was the big one, and everyone else kind of almost got lumped together. You can put Ox above that, but he's been away for a while. You can put Luthier above that, but he's not playing the tier until like week 5 due to his personal absence. So it was kind of hard to come up with any plan in advance for the quote-unquote muddled middle of those tiers. Another difficult thing to plan for was SV, where that's a third of your team, and you have to decide how to set up that core. I've been on teams where the current gen OU, because this was during SS, the current gen OU really struggles and it can drag down a whole team. Like in SCL 3, so I was a player like a year and a half ago, we had like a 7-20 OU record. And so even though we had 3 7-win players in lower tiers, we were not able to make playoffs with SV dragging us down. So that really makes you want to invest in it. But then on the other hand, we'd seen the Tyrants just win with a pretty low budget SV core. We'd seen the Tigers put some big money in there for like Trosco and Gary Oak, but they also had some cheap breakouts. Well, actually, I guess just JJ was cheap. Stormzone wasn't cheap. But we've seen cheap players do well there. And that's the direction we went when we decided to spend a relatively low amount of money there.
Okay. Yeah, and do you want to talk a little bit about that, like your team's SV core specifically, maybe a little bit of that strategy that went behind building that?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to get like a top player. A lot are taken by retains. A lot of teams were able to successfully retain like a 10K top 10 SV option. We decided on Dolly as like our first choice for a top SV because they have, really strong, consistent results. Like they were 5-1 last SCL before the team was eliminated, and then they didn't care and they kind of fell to 5-3, which, every game counts, but I think I saw that they have more potential than that record indicated. And a 5-3 record is still good. So we knew we wanted him as our number 1 option. And then we wanted some active building. We got Ling Loy for that, which was a little more money than we expected. 8K for a debut is pretty high, but clearly builders were highly in demand. Like I know BHKG was like 9K on another team. I think that's the one example, but I remember seeing a few more for builders being priced highly. So we wanted like active building, and then we could complement that with some more affordable tour players like Sino confirmed, LPZ, and Kate, who is currently on our bench, but fill in if we ever needed to. Getting a builder that I trust from SCL enabled us to kind of get those cheap tour guys and entrust them to not get overwhelmed by 9+ weeks of having to build teams.
Very cool. circling back to the auction, were there any surprises that you saw, like either during the auction or maybe looking back, you were like, oh, this was, really interesting that this happened? Just what were some of the biggest surprises during the auction this year?
Well, one of the surprises I mentioned was that lack of like really high spending. Like it was very spread out. I've seen other people say in Smogon Tournament's Discord that this was like one of the most normal auctions, and I feel like that is kind of a fair assessment because as I look at this, and I think back to the auction, I don't really remember any crazy surprises. There were some great steals late, like I mentioned some of the good ones we got, but then like Shitrock Enjoyer, Frudazi, as he's known, is the number 3 ranked ADV player, and he was 3K in the very end. Bad Dummy is another like above average ADV player who went for 3K in the end there. So there were just a lot of great players that went under the radar until the very end of the auction, and we were able to benefit from that some. But that's not really that much of a surprise because it does happen in a lot of these tours. So I would say I wasn't really too shocked by the auction, honestly. I can pick out individual players. Like I know TDNT, I'd heard he might, like, I think when we looked at the plan, he might have, like we considered at one point like a plan that would be almost like 20K on him. But at 15K, I mean, he was a very affordable option. That stands out to me. Ruffles Pro going 18.5 in a debut, and Nico going 19. I remember we considered both of those guys, and I didn't think they would get that high, although like both are very talented and definitely worthy. 5 for DPP was an interesting one just because I wondered how much people would listen to Shake's hatred of spending money in DPP, and I wondered if it could actually like keep. I think at one point we considered a plan where he was 20, and it would be great if like the DPP tax let you get a player of that caliber for only 20K, but there was not such a tax, at least when it applied to him. So yeah, I guess not too surprising.
Great, I'd love to hear it. And finally, the last question I kind of have for you is, what do you think is the biggest storyline that you'll be following this season?
I'm personally curious if the Sharks can make playoffs. I feel like Star has struggled a bit in that regard lately, including like the Platoon recently, and I think I forget if he was involved with the Wolfpack last year. Yeah, I know they also missed playoffs. And both of those teams, the Platoon and the Wolfpack coming in, had very strong rosters. And I do have a lot of friends on the Sharks that I'm, I'm close with Attribute and Lily, so I'm going to be personally cheering for both of them. And I think I like people like TDNT, Nico, JYT. I find their attitudes pretty admirable. And I think they're a team that seems strong. I wonder if they can overcome this slump lately, because all those other rosters looked really strong too, and they do look like a top team. So I wonder if they can make playoffs. I wonder if the Tyrants playoff streak continues. 6 out of 7 is definitely remarkable, and I want to see if they experience any kind of slump or if they can like build a dynasty in a tour that's really volatile like this. And another big storyline, I guess, is the bigs being taken over by the ABR, Tony, XCal mega trio. Like I wonder with big personalities like that, especially like XCal hasn't really worked with them before. XCal and ABR are both super involved in prep. Like how is that going to be like a detrimental collision, or are they going to be able to combine their talents and really like take the bigs to a level they haven't been before, like we saw with the Tigers last year? There's really interesting storylines for like almost any team, but those are just a couple that stand out. And also I'm cheering for like my SCL teammate Piyush to take the Cryonicles out of the quote unquote pits.
Absolutely, Piyush, the MVP I think for SCL, finishing with the best record in the tournament. So yeah, definitely someone to kind of keep an eye out for, especially in SPL. But yeah, that's all I have in terms of the questions for you. But before we shove off, is there anything kind of like closing remarks you would like to make to the people?
Go Classiest. I mean, I hope we can earn your support with some sick gameplay. I really like our team. I think we're deep throughout, and we're gonna, I think our old gens are really strong on paper, and we look forward to bringing some exciting shit in SV and taking the gen over. So, wish everybody the best. I mean, I'm hoping it's gonna be a tour without too much insane stuff and drama and complaining. like the hacking incident last year with Malekith, like that was kind of ridiculous. So I hope it's just a good tour. Best team wins. Hopefully it'll be us, and that everybody has fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Expulso, thank you for joining me today, taking the time out of your schedule to kind of sit down and do this interview. Greatly appreciated. And good luck to you as well as the rest of the congregation of the Classiest.
Thanks, Ming. Appreciate it.
That's all from us. To all our lovely viewers watching from YouTube, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.